What if enmeshment is actually holding you back from a much more efficient, productive, and self-loving life? In this video, I'm going to explore what somebody's life would look like and how it would change if they were in fact not enmeshed with people. So again, just to look at enmeshment for what it is for those that don't know, enmeshment is a pseudo-intimacy dynamic between people where boundaries are diffused, right? You don't really get to have your own sense of personal and individual privacy, right? The way that you approach connection with people is that their shit is your shit is their shit. And basically, you have a loss of self, right? Because the boundaries are diffused. There are no boundaries, there are no healthy boundaries in the setting. And the only way that you feel any sense of trust with people is if you know absolutely everything about them and what's going on in their life. And that's just not healthy, right? The ways in which I have experienced enmeshment in my life is when I notice that my relationships are very fast, very deep, very actually, when I say deep, I don't mean deep in terms of personal I thou stuff. I mean relating to weather, politics, the very surface, superficial stuff, Kardashian, Joneses level stuff, the stuff that really just amounts to drama and gossip and really doesn't tell you anything about anyone. More so, actually, if it does tell you anything about them, it's pointing towards their own personal fear of going inward and introspecting and looking at themselves, right? That's the fascinating thing about enmeshment, actually, is that if you're enmeshed with somebody, it's one of the greatest pointers towards their own lack of capacity to go deep with themselves, right? Have you ever heard that saying before that people can only go as deep with you as they have with themselves, right? If you ever find it that you're in a dynamic with somebody where it's not deep, right? It's usually just enmeshed and it's very much based around superficial things like pop culture, the weather, politics, this, that, and the other. Now, if don't get me wrong, it's great to have conversations with people that are healthy where you can talk about things that you are mutually interested in, right? But if it completely negates personal matters, right, then it's not healthy. There's nothing wrong, there's nothing unhealthy about talking about things that you both agree that you can explore, right? But if you don't know anything about the person themselves that you're connecting with, I would consider that a red flag, right? So let's look at how somebody's life would change if they weren't enmeshed with people. I've personally been looking at this for at least a few months, if not, 6 months to a year and a half. I've been realizing how much time I would save if I wasn't enmeshed with people. Because enmeshment is very much a metaphorically vomiting dynamic. And when I say that, I mean there are people out there that when you meet them, you know pretty much everything about them in minutes. That is not healthy. That is a vomiting dynamic. That is somebody who partakes in enmeshment and they don't have healthy boundaries because you learn about their entire fucking life in a matter of minutes. These are the same people that are likely to fucking run away from you after the 5 minutes of having vomited everything on you because they don't know how to conduct a healthy relationship. That is why they gave you everything up front. And it's fascinating too because I used to buy into this dynamic of giving everything up front and believing that that was the way to go, right? I used to believe it's like I gave them everything. I told them everything. Why did they leave? That's why they left. Because they are mutually incapable of healthy intimacy because they lack healthy boundaries, right? When you find yourself in a dynamic with somebody where you are enmeshed, you're going to see that they lack healthy boundaries. These are the same people that after you tell them everything about your life, after they've told you everything about their life, they leave, right? People that are involved in enmeshment tend to be emotionally immature, emotionally unavailable. They give everything up front and then they fucking run, right? That's why you notice that relationships that start fast end fast, because they're fast and they're fucking deep. And I've experienced many of these types of relationships throughout my life, and the person is just out of there, right? So let's look at the dynamic of how your life would change and transform if you do not partake in enmeshment anymore moving forward. You would have a fuck ton more time to yourself because you're not just consistently enmeshing with people, right? Um, People that are enmeshed, they tend to have an all or nothing dynamic because it makes sense, right? If boundaries were in place, it wouldn't be everything. It would be a healthy, slow, progressive buildup of mutual intimacy where trust and safety, excuse me, trust and safety are being built upon over time, right? Not just this fucking dynamic of, oh, I need you to know everything about me right now, because that's the only way that I feel safe of building intimacy with an individual, right? They just fucking vomit their entire fucking life at you in a matter of minutes, and then they leave, and you're like, what the fuck? That was amazing. But the fascinating thing is that you might believe that it was amazing, but then if you were to actually take a step away from the dynamic and be like, oh, wait a second, you just told me your entire fucking life story in minutes. Now you're gone. I understand why you're gone, because you were like, I gave everything and I didn't realize I needed to have boundaries, this, that, and the other. Um, yeah, your life will change if you stop enmeshing with people, because you'll stop taking however many hours you take enmeshing with people, vomiting your shit into their life, them vomiting their shit into your life, and then walking away just like, have you ever come out of a situation with somebody? Maybe you haven't. It's okay if you haven't. You may have though. But have you ever come out of a situation with somebody where you feel like you just got out of a fucking boxing ring with somebody that beat the shit out of you, right? And previously you may have not felt that way about enmeshment, but you're starting to feel that way. You're starting to feel like, like left hook, right hook, left hook, right hook, uppercut, just like over and over again, just getting the ever living shit beat out of you, right? This other person doesn't have, either they're boundaryless or they have unhealthy boundaries, and they just feel the need to fucking vomit all their shit on you, right? That's oftentimes what occurs in dynamics of enmeshment, all or nothing. And the one of the unhealthiest things about enmeshment is the dynamic of all or nothing. And the reason why it's called all or nothing is because you're getting everything of the person or you're getting absolutely nothing. Right? So there's that like euphoric rush of everything. You're believing that you're getting the best parts of this person because you're learning everything about them up front, right? But then what happens? Well, because they're emotionally immature and emotionally unavailable, then the contrast, the polar opposite comes into play, which is the nothing, right? The euphoria is what, or I should say, I'm going to call it more so the adrenaline rush, the cortisol, the cortisol and the adrenaline experience, which many people are familiar with, and they equate that with attraction and being in love. That's the all or nothing, right? You're getting everything. You're getting this euphoric rush because of all this fucking information. You think that you're going fucking deep with, and you might be going deep with them, by the way. Let's not say you aren't. You might very well be going deep with them, but you're going at it so fucking fast that the likelihood that it's gonna fucking crash and burn to fucking nothing really fast is really fucking likely, right? I mean, look at it. It's all, right? You're getting all of them, all of them, all of them, all of them, or you're getting nothing of them and they're leaving and they're going away, right? That dynamic is fucking hell. Nothing short of it. It sucks. It's a terrible fucking dynamic. It really is. So if you stop enmeshing people and meshing with people, the way that your life will change is that you'll have all of this time back on yourself. You'll get to practice more of time by yourself and self-care and self-love, right? You'll be more productive, more efficient with your time. And not only that, but you'll also learn healthier ways to connect with people. Um, you can introspect, you can discover more about yourself, more about your own dynamics and how it is that you approach people and everything. You can learn to slow down with yourself, you can learn to slow down with people, right? Um, the more you walk away from enmeshment, the more you might actually start to see enmeshment for what it is, this exceedingly dysfunctional dynamic where you and the other fucking vomit at each other with either no boundaries or permeable boundaries. You come together, it's everything all at once, and then it's nothing. That dynamic sucks. It really does. I mean, I speak from personal experience. I don't like that dynamic. And when you really come out of it on the other side and you start to see it for what it is and understand what it means, it can really transform your reality and your understanding of it. But just for some kind of like recommendations moving forward for anybody that is considering stepping away from enmeshment, what you will probably find is a discovering of self, because in dynamics of enmeshment, self gets lost, right? Because again, in enmeshment, there are diffused boundaries, right? So essentially, whatever you thought of to be yourself, like where you begin, where you end, where other begins, where other ends, right? That's all lost. In enmeshment, you're taking on other people's energies, their identities, their dynamics, this, that, and the other. So you're getting lost in other people. You know, this is what breeds and births codependency. Codependency is a massive loss of self because you're so interdependent. Not even interdependent. You're fucking taking on other people's identities and emotions. Codependency is like a byproduct of enmeshment. You become so glued into other people. You take on identities. You lose yourself in these dynamics. So the other cool thing about, I'll end off with this. The other cool thing about disengaging from enmeshment is the discovering of self, right? You might start to sit with yourself alone. You might start to be like, well, who am I? What am I? What do I value? Right? You'll start to look at your identity and you'll start to take off the layers of clothing of other people that you've worn, other people's ideas, other people's opinions, their feelings, their emotions, their energies, their beliefs, all of these things, right? That's the distortion that comes with that's the identity distortion that comes with enmeshment, right? The taking on of all of these identities, all of these beliefs and these opinions, carrying with you things that aren't really you. You really regain self when you exit enmeshment, because self really doesn't exist. Um, Autonomous self really does not exist within enmeshment. Individuality really does not exist within enmeshment. You get all of that back when you disengage from enmeshment, and that in and of itself is a very magical experience. I might make a part two to this because there's a lot to talk about and I just love the subject. um, for anybody that's interested, by the way, I believe it was Salvador Minuchin. He was the grandfather or godfather of enmeshment. I believe that he was the one that coined the term. Um, Fascinating guy, really, really fascinating guy. Enmeshment is an exceedingly fucked up, dysfunctional dynamic that occurs between family members that lack healthy boundaries. This is where codependency is born. This is where um, people lose self and identity, and that's just the reality of it.